Welcome back to the Ray Appleton program. The chairman of the California Republican Party, Jessica Milon Patterson, who joins us now on KMJ. My dear friend, how you doing?
It's always great to be with you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
I'm sure you've answered the question 1,000 times a day, but what did you think of the debate last night?
Holy cow. I think J.D. Vance just blew us all away. He just did such a phenomenal job. You know, it was another situation where it was 3-on-1, and he handled it absolutely perfectly and flawlessly. He put forth a very, very clear vision for the future, a very clear vision of what a Trump-Vance administration would do for Americans. And he was also pretty clear about what a Harris-Walz administration would look like. And it's because we've been living it for the past 3.5 years. We would get more of the same. So if your pocket is a little lighter than it was 4 years ago, you would get more of that. If you feel a little less safer than you did 4 years ago, you'd probably get more of that too. So all of these different things, I think J.D. Vance just did a phenomenal job. And the moderator certainly did him no favors, but it looks like he didn't need any because he just absolutely dominated that debate last night.
Well, I think it's becoming kind of a clear example to everybody, though, regardless of how conservative you are or aren't. If you have an R after your name, there's only maybe one or two places where you're going to get a fair shake in the media because it's just not friendly anywhere you go, and that was clearly demonstrated last night. But it didn't bother him at all. Now, you know, with Donald Trump, he took the bait. I think he suffered a little bit. I think he should have had a little bit more of J.D. Vance in him when he did his thing with Kamala Harris. But last night, Vance, well, he sold himself on me because I've had a little bit of a dark cloud over my head because of the choice of him in the number 2 spot. But, man, the guy was brilliant. I'm sold. I love him.
He was absolutely brilliant, and all Republicans should follow that lead. We know that there are very few places that we're going to get a fair shake when it comes to a debate. The liberal mainstream media has a very clear bias against Republicans. You could tell by the questions that are being asked in these debates. You have to come prepared. You have to know that that is the situation that you are walking into, and you have to be ready to take that on. J.D. Vance was absolutely all of those things last night.
There are a couple of races, congressional races here in California I want to talk to you about. They're very close. Makes me a little nervous. We have Rudy Salas and David Valadao. Talk to me about that one.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this is a rematch, and I couldn't be more excited about this rematch because we have the playbook on how to beat Rudy Salas. We know that when the Valley sent him up to Sacramento, he didn't bother showing up for work. We know how many votes he missed when he was in Sacramento. And Congressman David Valadao has just been a phenomenal representative for the Valley. And I think what you need to look at most in this district, and quite frankly, it's happening in every single one of these districts, but I'm going to talk about this district for a second. You know, when we won this seat, when Congressman Valadao won this seat in November of 2022, it was a Democrat registration advantage of 17.5 points. It is now a Democrat registration advantage of only about 14.5. So we have seen a movement of 3 full points in registration towards Republicans. This is great news for David Valadao because the last thing people do is change their voter registration. First, they'll start voting with you, and then eventually they may change their registration, and we're seeing that. People are paying attention. This is a seat that was decided by less than 3 points last time around.
Oh, yeah.
So I couldn't be more excited that we have Congressman David Valadao, who continues to represent the Valley so incredibly well.
Another rematch to the north of where I am, Duarte and Gray. Talk to me.
This is another one. I mean, and the numbers are even better in this district, if you can imagine that. Since October of 2022 or November of 2022, when we won this seat by 560 votes, this is a seat that we have registered 8,000 new Republicans in this seat. In that same time period, the Democrats have lost 185 Democrats. So we are seeing such a movement in this district as well. Congressman John Duarte, sending another farmer to Congress has proven to be very, very successful for California Republicans. He is so incredibly engaged when it comes to the water issues, when it comes to scarcity issues that the Valley is facing. And he understands the problems. He represents that district so incredibly well. And I think that's one of the major reasons we're seeing this migration of more Republican voters in seats like Congressman John Duarte. So I know all of these polls look really, really tight, and that's because there's huge registration advantages for the Democrats in these seats. In a seat like this, if you had this type of registration in Arizona or Colorado, they wouldn't even look twice at it. But in California, our Valley Democrats and independents have become reliable Republican voters, even if they're not changing their registration, because we have found candidates in these districts that represent them so incredibly well. And Congressman John Duarte, I think, is going to be enjoying another 2 years. Again, we have the playbook to beat Adam Gray. We've done it once before. We're going to do it again. And Congressman John Duarte is going to enjoy another 2 years in Congress.
Are there any other races in this state that mirror what we're seeing here? These two races, being in at one time strong Democratic districts, but now leaning in another direction. Did anything else come close to this in California?
Well, yeah, and another one actually happens to be in the Valley. We're looking at that California 9 seat with a very, very close eye. This is the Josh Harder seat. We have an amazing candidate in current mayor of Stockton, Kevin Lincoln. This individual has just worked so incredibly hard, but this is the district that we've seen the biggest swing towards Republican voters, and the biggest registration difference since 22. It's also a seat that, while our congressional candidate lost by 15,000 votes in 2022, our candidate for controller, Lanhee Chen, he won that seat by 11,000 votes. We don't have a Republican brand problem. We don't have a Republican turnout problem in that district. We need to give them the right candidate, and our right candidate, I believe, is Kevin Lincoln. So we've got a great shot at that. But we're seeing this trend on the registration across the entire state, Ray, and it has just been amazing to watch in all of our congressional districts, assembly districts, Senate districts. We've seen those increases since November of 2022, these big numbers that are switching and turning in our direction. We've flipped 2 seats on registration from blue to red. So that is great news for us, because I think that Californians have a great opportunity. Another seat over on the assembly side, we have Joanna Garcia Rose.
She's sharp.
Who is running.
She's a smart one.
She's a wonderful, wonderful candidate, and she has been working incredibly hard. This is a seat where we've seen over 5,500 new Republicans registered in that district. That same time period, Democrats only saw an increase of 128 Democrats.
Well, she beat the incumbent in the primary. You know that.
She beat the incumbent in the primary. This is a seat that was decided by less than 2,000 votes last time around, and we've already registered over 5,000 new Republicans since that election in 2022. Yeah, this is another great opportunity for California Republicans.
The incumbent is a former Fresno City Councilwoman who was not a big superstar here, so I wasn't surprised when this young lady got her tail beat by Joanna in the primary. And I think we're going to grab that one. It's just it looks good, it feels good. And I just get a good vibe from the candidate. I really do. She's, been involved with the bureaucracy before on the fringes, been there, done that. She knows both sides really well, private industry and public industry. She's a kind of a perfect candidate. You know what I mean?
That's the exact type of person that we need to be sending to Sacramento to fix the many problems. We have a member from up in the Sacramento area, Josh Hoover, who put forth essentially accountability for the homeless crisis, because we went through that audit and saw $24 billion that we don't know exactly where it all went. And people like Gavin Newsom veto bills like that. We need more voices that are going to stand up to the bureaucracy. We're going to need more voices that are going to stand up to the one-party rule that has been just absolutely killing our state.
This poll that's out today, that's about the governor's contended race, whatever that may be, 2 years down the road. The authors of this poll, which is a couple of universities, are saying basically voters seem very, very confused about what they're looking for in the way of a gubernatorial candidate. Are you aware of this poll, Jessica? Have you seen it, or just respond to this so-called confusion about, who should be running?
And I think that is kind of a good thing. It is a good thing that Californians are thinking about this, because for the first time, we know that they are realizing that the Democrat Party and what they've been serving up, all of the myriad of candidates that they have put forth there, they're not exactly certain that any one of them can stop what has been taking place. In fact, they think most of them have been a part of the problem. And I think this is good news that there's some confusion out there. It means people are thinking about what can we be doing differently. And for your listeners out there, I can tell you what you can do differently. You can vote differently. If you want something different from what you've always got here in California, vote differently. And that may be looking at a Republican for the very first time.
I have a very dear friend who is my broadcast partner certain days of the week here on KMJ. He's a Brit, Steve Hilton. You know who he is. He's thinking about running. I'm just like, really? He's getting real serious about it. Real serious.
Well, you don't realize that you're necessarily at a turning point until sometimes you're past it. And I think there are some people out there that have a vision and know that California can do better. And with the right message and the right messenger, we can make a difference here in California. And I think that's the type of person Steve is.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's got it down. All right, Jessica, I'm going to let you go. Thanks for joining us as always. And good luck to us in the future.
Absolutely. Talk soon.
Take care. Bye-bye. God bless.